As unfortunate as it was, it kind of gives you a chance to kind of reset. And I think it's kind of stuff like that that makes you appreciate things when you get back healthy.
Nassir Little, born February 11th, 2000. Today's feature is a guy that was rated the number 3 player of his high school class, number 1 at his position, and ahead of multiple players that became all-stars and even franchise cornerstones for their eventual NBA teams by 247 Sports, and on Rivals, number 2 overall, ahead of guys like Cam Reddish, Darius, Garland, and Zion Williamson. Garland an all-star in 2022, and Williamson an all-star in 21 and 23. While both have dealt with injury, they've signed huge deals to remain with the franchise that drafted them, and Little, after playing for his second franchise, has just been waived by the Phoenix Suns August 27, 2024, months before the 24-25 season is set to get underway. With free agency starting months ago, rosters are already pretty much set, minus a few teams keeping a space or two open to make a final move that sets them over the top. It raises the questions, where does Nassir Little play next season? And at 24 years old, is this the end to a brief, injury-riddled career where he's only ever played at least 50 games one time in his career? And if so, what happened? How does one go from a top 3 rating, top 2 in some cases, and all the achievements as a standout high school player that was not just a McDonald's All-American, but Jordan Brand All-American as well, winning the MVP in both games, joining a group of only he and LeBron James to ever win MVP at both end-of-season games? 5 years later, is it safe to conclude that things played out unexpectedly negative for Little ever since high school? Or did he leave too early from North Carolina for the league? Or is he one of those players that just needs the right opportunity to show he has the tools to be just as advertised? I can't say that I'm 100% shocked at the news of him being waived, as I've always felt he was highly overrated from the jump for the reasons I'll speak on later, and that's not a reflection of him at all. Sometimes people get it wrong and place these players in a situation where they have to live up to these insane expectations even when they don't have the tools to give them a chance. If you ever believe Nassir Little, who's 6'4.5" without shoes on, but listed as a power forward, small forward, was ever going to be a good enough NBA player to justify him leaving school after 1 year and drafted in the first round, then maybe you too should work for the Blazers and Suns. The saying is, timing is everything, but we never think about bad timing as much as we focus on always trying to be in the right place at the right time. For Little, time moved fast as far as the game goes and left him behind with a game style that may never be successful in the NBA for these reasons. What happened? Let's talk about it. Salute to Kwaku6285 on IG for this request. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Nassir Little is a 6'5", 6'6" power forward, small forward from Pensacola, Florida, but played his high school ball in Orange Park, Florida, then Orlando, Florida, where he helped lead his high school team to 2 back-to-back Florida state titles as a junior and senior. He was also the Central Florida Class 3A State Player of the Year as a senior, along with being outstanding in the classroom, being named salutatorian of his senior class, honorable participant all 4 years of high school, and member of the National Honor Society. Like mentioned, the ranking sites loved his game, rating him much too high in my opinion, leading to a disappointing freshman season at North Carolina compared to expectations and ratings. After losing in the regional semifinals to Auburn, he shockingly declared for the NBA draft. Stunt number 1, a physical growth stunt. I struggled with this first growth stunt because everything in me wanted to start with the fact that he left North Carolina after just 1 season, where he never started not 1 game, and some games he wasn't even the first guy off the bench. For whatever reason, he wasn't given the opportunity to grow and develop the necessary skills that could make him an immediate impact in the league at North Carolina, yet and still he left anyway. In most cases, that would be a clear-cut growth stunt, but even though he averaged just 9.8 points and 4.6 rebounds per game, shot 26% from 3, and averaged more turnovers than assists, I still think him leaving was the right thing to do in hindsight. He had to take that opportunity, it's that simple. After his freshman year in college, it was clear he was exposed for not being the talent people thought he was, so while he was still only 1 year removed from the highly rated high school career and achievements, he had to act immediately and parlay that into a first-round draft pick. Him coming back for another year would have further exposed the fact that he never should have been rated that high in the first place, mainly because he was way out of position in my opinion, and time was fast on his heels in showing the world that was the case. To me, Nassir Little is one of those players that when he was younger, he was always taller, bigger, and stronger than the kids his age. So what then do the coaches do? Stick him in a big man's position of center or power forward, immediately setting his game and mindset to that in important development years where he developed a big man's game and mentality. As time quickly went by, the game started to get much bigger to where point guards are his size and taller. So to be a big man at the highest level, 6'4" without shoes is just not going to cut it. What most players now try to do that's caught in a place where they have a big man's game but didn't continue growing into it is they try to change their game and position to play a smaller one, but rarely does it work. Nassir Little moves, plays, and has the attitude of a guy that would have been a great power forward had he grown into his power forward-esque game. He doesn't handle, shoot, or create for self and others well enough to be a good small forward in the NBA, which is a position they attempt to move him to that just didn't work. Even then, a 6'5" small forward still presents a disadvantage to a team, especially when he isn't elite at the duties of that position. A 6'10" Nassir Little is a beast in the league with the game he has now, but a 6'5", 6'6" guy with the same talent ends up out the league prematurely. Stunt number 2, providing significance. On a level where every player there has been a star prior to and likely has been for a long time, you have to provide something of significance to be able to stick around, especially when you're undersized and ultimately out of position. Looking across the board, Nassir Little doesn't do that. His first 2 seasons, he lined up in the position of power forward for the Trailblazers and averaged 2.3 rebounds and 0.3 blocks per game. In his 3rd season with the most minutes of his career, he averaged 5.6 rebounds, numbers guards average every year. From 2021 and on, he suited up as a small forward for the Portland Trailblazers and Phoenix Suns, averaging 1 assist and shooting low 30s from 3 and nearly the same amount of turnovers as assists. From a wing position, the player has to be able to do a little of everything, and Nassir didn't have the handle that leads to playmaking or finishing for himself and was too small to out-rebound bigs most nights or block shots on the defensive end. When you think of it that way, you start to ask yourself, how important is this player to your team if you're a GM or coach? Opportunity dwindled for the former 25th overall pick, and Portland traded him around this same time last year to the Phoenix Suns, where he only was healthy enough to play 45 games, but once again, even in a small sample size, he didn't show he could bring more than energy off the bench, something a team can get from a guy much taller that adds something significant for much less. Stunt number 3, injuries. As mentioned, Nassir in 5 years played a total of 237 games, missing a little more than the equivalent of 3 full 82-game seasons. We've seen players play a limited amount of games before due to injuries, but to only play at least 50 games just one time in 5 years really hurt Little's potential and staying power around the league. The Suns saw the writing on the wall that he was likely going to continue down his injury-prone path and cut ties with him after just 45 games, waiving him and stretching his contract over the years so they wouldn't have to pay a little more to keep him around. His injuries read like a shopping list for the week, ranging from knees to concussions he'd have to wear a protective mask for, ankle, hip, calf, shoulder, back, thumb, and abdominal injuries, which he had 2 surgeries on in 2022 and 2023. Availability is the best ability, and Little came up small in being available enough to show he's worth the investment. All in all, it'll be difficult for a team to pick up the rest of Nassir's $28 million contract extension he signed with the Blazers, seeing the reasons explained, but if it ended today, he had a pretty successful run. Not many can say they made $30 million by their early 30s, and he got to live out his dream. But basketball-wise, for these reasons, his growth was stunted. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.